I now recognize Ms. Wagon for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Takano and Ranking Member Dr. Rove for today's hearing. Thank you to Secretary Wilkie and the rest of VA for coming. It's always a pleasure to see you, and I also want to welcome the VSOs and thank them for their input today. Mr. Secretary, one of the provisions of the Mission Act included an assessment of health care furnished by the Department to veterans who live in the territories of the United States. The report determined that VA furnished health care in the territories overall, and it's considered both sufficient and efficient, but also projected an increase in demand for services and noted that veterans in the U.S. territories have to travel to Hawaii or the mainland for much of their care. The report seemed optimistic about the VA's ability to handle health care needs of the territories through the use of community care to provide services closer to home. The report cites projections of our territory veterans' demands for care across 10 to 20 years. Does this same sort of foresight apply to this budget proposal? And could you please go over briefly the VA's short-term and long-term plans to meet the needs of the territories and remote areas?
Yeah. I have been very, very open about my desire to serve those communities in the country, in our rural areas and in our territories, particularly in the Native American communities and the Native communities of the Pacific. One of the reasons I've stated is that no group of Americans serves in higher number than those Americans, and no group of Americans has more medals of honor per capita than the Americans that you represent. I will be headed to the territories at the end of May. In the short term, our budget for telehealth is the quickest way that we can respond to the needs of diverse populations, not only in your area of the Pacific, but also in places like Alaska, by getting our VA doctors to service those veterans in your area across jurisdictional lines, state lines, in addition to doing as much as we can to make more robust the clinics that we have in the territories. We're not going to be able to give you a 100% answer that 100% of the health delivery, health services that we provide will be available to all the territories, but it is something that we are working diligently on. And I do think that telehealth is the most important investment that we can make right now to make a difference.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.